Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Tonight, this is the first of a three-part series. Radical, what do we call it? Radical
listening for relationship building.
All right, so a big part of one of the big things that we're working on as a community of mediators is to make sure that people understand that the service and the work of ADR is not just about conflict, but it's about relationship building. I was listening to one of the smart people that get put on radios and writes books, saying that one of the things we're missing is more discourse, and not just discourse about the things that we are having conflict about, but just good old fashioned sitting down and talking. And he likened it to when people sit down and they watch the Super Bowl together, and then they sit down afterwards and they talk about what it was that they just watched. Their conversation is not going to change the outcome of the game that they just watched. The people that won will still have won. The people who lost will still have lost. That won't change. But they will be exchanging information about each other as they're having that discourse that informs when they're having discussion that is laden with conflict, that are things that they can do something about. And in that discourse, we're building trust. Trust that even when you're making a decision that I don't agree with, that I trust you are you, and I understand who you are, and that it is not that's not a decision being built on my demise, and that we have a better chance of having difficult conversations if we allow ourselves and engage ourselves in having low impact conversations. So basically, we're just not talking enough is this person's thing. I have a couple of people in my life who would disagree with that from their relationship with me, but they aren't on this training, and so they don't count right now, right? So I want to start this off. We're going to jump in. Thank you, Asia. We're going to jump in with our preview for tonight, and I'm going to do a screen share. I would try to do minimal screen shares in this training because I prefer looking at your beautiful faces. But we'll get this started. All right, is anyone who cannot see the screen share? Raise your hand. Let me know. I think everyone can see it. All right, great. So we're jumping into the preview. So every time we get together in all three trainings, we will start off with a gathering. I will always go first, and then I'll pick somebody to go, and when you go, that person will pick someone, and so on and so on. And our gathering today is you will say your name and something positive that I do in conflict is, and you'll finish that sentence, okay? Then I am going to introduce you to our favorite tool as mediators, which is, I'm going to introduce you to inclusive listening. And then we'll practice as a group, listening as inclusive mediators do. Then I'm going to give you some work that to work on by individually, but you'll have the support of the whole group to work on it. And then I'm going to give you something to practice with at home that we can refer to on our next session. Okay. And hopefully I'll have some time left over for some questions and answers if you. All right. So can I get somebody to start with the top of the handout, that first paragraph on inclusive listening?
Inclusive listening is the process of listening to a positional statement and breaking it into three parts: feelings, topics, and what's important. Hearing people in this way helps you to work on understanding what they are saying without judgment.
All right. And can I get somebody to pick up the next part, please?
She muted everybody.
You can unmute yourself.
I know. Positional statements are usually insults, threats, possible solutions, or angry statements that focused on the past and blame someone for the problem. Examples of positional statements.
Do you mind reading those examples for me?
She's such a slob.
Well done, well done.
Her crap is all over the place. I'm not picking up after her anymore. Second one, he's a liar. He never tells me what's really going on with my son, and I'll take him to court if I have to. He'll never see that kid again if he doesn't change. Third one, if he doesn't turn down that music, I'm going to kill him. Sounds like to her son. If you could follow directions, then we wouldn't have these problems, would we? Definitely to her husband. I was fired because I'm a woman standing up for my rights, period.
Okay. All right. So when we're talking about positional statements, we're like talking about that place where people dig in their heels and they're saying, this is why I'm right. Okay. These are the facts. This is what's going on, right? And oftentimes positional statements don't leave a whole lot of space for another perspective. Okay. And so what we've said in the first part is we give an example of positional statements. And what we're doing is training our ears so they take positional statements and break them down into feelings, values, and topics. Feelings, topics, and what's important. Okay? So and we'll talk about the rest of this handout. We'll talk about why are we doing that? What's the purpose of doing that? So can I get someone to volunteer to read that whole feelings section?
Feeling, oh, go ahead.
Hey,
Okay, that's cool. Feelings are emotion, words reflecting the degree of intensity people express. Make sure that you listen for the feelings that people are expressing, not your opinion of what their feelings must be. For example, I'm sick and tired of wearing clothes that she knows will attract, I'm sick and tired of her wearing clothes that she knows will attract all the attention from men. I try to keep clients from coming to our office in hopes that they don't see the way she dresses. I have a nice body too, but you don't see me coming to work dressed that way. Avoid your opinion about what the speaker is feeling. She's jealous, envious, etc. Listen for feelings that are expressed by the speaker: fed up, embarrassed, proud. Example of feelings are angry, disappointed, sad, hurt, betrayed, proud, upset, disgusted, pleased, confused, and surprised.
Okay. So what we're saying is that we want to pay attention to the feelings that people are having about what's going on and making sure that we're hearing to how they would describe the feelings as opposed to letting our judgments define how they would describe their feelings. Okay. So the example in this one, I'm sick and tired of her wearing clothes that she knows will attract attention from the men. It's so easy. It's so quick to easy to assume that we know that that person is feeling jealous and envious, right? But that's not what they were saying they were feeling. They were saying that they were fed up and embarrassed, right? And what's the line that says fed up, embarrassed? Two separate lines. What's the line that says fed up?
I'm sick and tired.
I'm sick and tired, right? That equals fed up. And what's the line that says embarrassed?
Attract all the attention from the men.
No, nope. After that,
I try not to bring customers or clients.
right?
Yeah.
I try not to even have clients in here. I don't even want them to see this foolishness. All right. So, can I get someone to talk about topics, please?
Topics are generally one-word tangible items. Topics should be framed using non-judgmental language, which does not take either person's side. Listening for concrete topics helps you avoid judgment because you are hearing in a way that removes the blame and focuses on things people may want to make plans about. You harass me constantly. Don't you have anyone else to talk to? Every time I turn around, you are posting to my Facebook page, emailing me and stopping me in the hallway for mindless chit chat. Then when I check my voicemail, you filled half my inbox with messages. Leave me alone and get a life. Avoid your idea of the problem based in the speaker's blame language. Harassment.
And can you finish that section up for me, please, Lucinda?
Trying to scroll down. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hearing the non-judgmental frame of this topic, communication. When naming a topic, check it through the topic's grinder. Someone has talked about having conflict around this thing. It is a specific and concrete. It does not blame anyone. It does not take anyone's side. It does not set up, yes, someone should, or no, someone shouldn't. Example, cleaning the house would not be a topic. Examples of topics are parking, housekeeping, communication, trash, the alley, clothing, schedule, and dog.
Okay. So I think topics are really important to understand. And I think they're often difficult for people to conceptualize. And the thing that makes topics difficult to conceptualize is that they're so easy, all right? Topics are very tangible things. They're flat, two-dimensional things that, you know, are not exciting words. They never make it into a Maya Angelou poem. They are mundane, okay? So housekeeping topic, parking topic, reunification of Eastern Europe, not a topic. That's too big, right? Clothing topic, schedule topic, revitalizing the romantic nature of our initiation into our relationship. Not a topic, okay? That is, you know, that's the whole issue, okay? That's an issue. All right, topics though, if you can kick it, you know, you can kick it, you can push it, that could be a topic. And if you got 10 people in a room and you ask them to define that thing and you come up with the similar answer, that would be a topic, okay? So like respect wouldn't work as a topic because it's not tangible and it's not specific and concrete, all right? And if you ask 10 people what respect was, each of them would have 10 answers on their own, okay? But if you ask people what clothing is, you have a very similar topic, similar answer, all right? Communication, that can be a topic word, and you want to be careful. One, because sometimes communication is a solution, right? And so when or communication can be a value as well. We'll talk about values in a minute, but I want to be careful. And so one of the things when I'm dealing with communication, to check to see if that's actually the topic, I ask myself, communication about what? All right. So if I say communication about, you know, how we're going to get the kids back and forth to school and the extracurricular activities, what am I really talking about?
Schedule.
Well, it could be schedule, it could just be transportation.
Okay.
Right? But if I have an answer to that, that answer is closer to the topic than communication is. Okay? So that's kind of this. So I love this topics grinder. My colleague Erica Bridgeford created this topics grinder. Unfortunately, after she trained me to be a mediator. But so the topics grinder is kind of new. I think it's been around for like 6 or so years. And but I think it's a really good tool when you're to have handy. Okay, so when you get this handout, if you pulled it up in the chat, highlight it so you have easy access to it so you can test to see if something is a topics grinder. So when I ask, has someone been talking about it? If they aren't talking about it, if we're not having that as a regular part of our conversation about what's going on, then I might be making something up. That's one of my, as I said in my gathering, one of my favorite things to do is to kind of make up what's been going on. Then is it specific and or concrete? Like, again, would 10 people have the same general definition about it, or is it something I can kick or push? Okay. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about blame. So the conversation about blame can be easier when we're a mediator, when we're a third party neutral, but if we're in the mix, and we're having this conversation, and the conversation we're having is about, you feel like I drink too much, I come in first thing from work, just drop my bags at the front door, and I get my glass of wine, and I sit down, and then with dinner I have 2 more glasses of wine, and then I need a little something to help me sleep well, right? And you start talking to me about alcohol, and I get defensive, right? I can feel blamed when you and I are having that conversation about alcohol, right? So it's a deeper question for myself about, is the word itself blaming me, or do I feel blamed just because I hear the word? All right. And so that, and truthfully, that is some advanced grown-up stuff that I am not always able to access. Right. But we can do it, right? We're all on this call together so we can support each other, so we can get to the grown-up stuff. All right. Because where we are in this world and our evolution as a species is, we just got to get to the grown-up stuff. We just got to get to that place, right? And so we're going to keep cheerleading each other so we can ask ourselves, is the word itself blaming me, or do I just feel triggered and blamed just because I heard the word? All right. Does it take someone's side? Kind of same thing, same flip side of that same coin. And does it set up a yes, someone should, no, someone shouldn't? So for me, housekeeping is a good example of that. So housekeeping, there are different ways we can do housekeeping. My favorite way is not to. Right? As opposed to if we said chores. All right. So chores sets up a yes, someone should, no, someone shouldn't, right? So chores is actually a solution generally for how housekeeping should happen. Unless we're actually talking about, it's like, look, we divvied up chores, and some of us are doing the chores exactly as we said and we promised we would do it, but some of us aren't following through, right? So maybe I'll put list chores then, but even still I would come back to housekeeping probably, okay? We've talked about feelings as it relates to conflict. We've talked about topics as they relate to conflict. Now let's talk about what's important. We also call what's important values. So can I get a reader for that section, what's important values?
What's important? Values are usually phrased as 1 or 2 key positive words reflecting the needs, goals, and values participants express. Listening for values helps you hear what's important to participants in the midst of blame language, insults, name-calling, etc. Be sure to listen for values that focus on what the participant is saying is important to them, not focusing on what they dislike about others, their position. Often you can hear values very clearly out of an insult a participant is making about someone else. For example, how come I'm the only one who has to do what I'm supposed to do? You're supposed to be their father. How about you make a decision? Avoid focusing on what the speaker doesn't like about others. He isn't doing his job as a father, etc. Hear what's important to the speaker: accountability, responsibility, follow through. Sometimes it can be challenging to think of the value words that capture the participants' needs using words that sound positive. The goal is to work on understanding the wants and goals that people express in a way that's not loaded where possible. For example, because she slashed my tires, she needed to get what was coming to her. Since I went through having to miss work to get my car fixed, she should have to see what that feels like. So that's right. I put a brick through her windshield. Yikes. Value being expressed could be revenge, payback, etc. And be sure to take note of the value words like understanding, justice, and fairness as well. Example of what's important: respect, honesty, flexibility, safety, convenience, integrity, obedience, order, politeness, relationship.
All right. Thank you so much, Karen. All right. So we're going to go back up here to this section here of the handout and see if we could pull out together the feelings, values, and topics going on. So with the first one, she's such a slob. Her crap is all over the place. I'm not picking up after her anymore. Okay. I want you to dissect that. And what feelings do you hear in there?
Frustration.
Okay. Where'd you hear? What's the line? What's the sentence that says frustration?
I'm not picking up after her anymore.
All right. I'm not picking up after her anymore. And what I would do, what I would recommend is I might even bump that up. Okay. Because I want to work on hearing as close to the intensity that the person is giving me around that feeling. So I wouldn't say frustration is wrong, but I would take it up a little bit in terms of intensity. So what could be more intense with that? When somebody's saying, I'm not doing it anymore.
Exasperation.
Fed up.
Exactly. But yeah, I would go with fed up. When somebody's telling me I'm not doing it, I might check in with I might hear that as fed up, done, right?
Angry.
All right. Angry, yeah, angry. Right, angry, pissed off. Right. And I want us to be mindful of this, that a lot of times, I know for myself as an African-American woman, one of the experiences that I have is that the minute somebody decides that I am an angry Black woman, they give themselves permission to stop listening to me. So I definitely, agree that there is anger in there, and I want to make sure that we don't stop listening at anger. All right. And so for me, fed up gets closer to it than anger. All right. What's this person's value?
Actually, Tracy, I have a question about that. What you were just talking about.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say you're in a mediation, and like somebody says what the line we just read. Is there a risk that if you let's say so frustration is kind of a diluted word for what may be going on. Let's say you go ahead and say, gee, what I'm hearing is you seem like you're kind of pissed off or angry or fed up. Do you risk overstating what the other person is feeling and creating more of an issue, or is it usually not a problem because the person will either correct you or you yourself will say, what I'm hearing is, you fed up, is that accurate? Something like that. Like, how do you make sure that you don't overstate what the other person's actually feeling?
I think I can't make sure. All right. I can't with certainty. I'm trying, I'm working hard. And I want to answer this two different ways, right? So this is definitely a tool that we use as a mediator. And I want to talk about how we use it as our tool as a human being. So as a mediator, I use a distancing phrase that communicates to the people listening that I am working towards understanding, and I'm going to have a check-in phrase at the end to give them space to let me know if I was wrong, right? So I would say, I think I'm hearing feeling fed up with what's been going on with housekeeping. Is that right? And I've checked in at the beginning, checked at the end, and I'm making space for them to tell me if I'm wrong, if fed up was too much. Okay. And if I overshot or I undershot the feeling that they were giving me, and they let me know, I just apologize. Okay, I'll apologize. So let me, it sounds like I kind of undershot that, and that it's not about feeling frustrated, but it's about feeling outraged.
Okay.
Right? So I just apologize and try again.
Okay.
And then as a human being, and if I say, all right, so kind of feeling fed up with with our daughter and how she's doing housekeeping, and feeling adamant about not doing that anymore. Yeah, right. So I just want to use regular word. I want to have I want to evoke a conversation.
Okay.
All right. So what's this person's value?
Personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility. Where's the part that says personal responsibility?
So where I got it was that when she said her crap is all over the place. Are we talking about that one?
Yeah, that's the same one.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Yeah,
And to me, the combination of actually all three statements, she's such a slob, her crap is all over the place. To me, those two really speak about her.
So I think, so I don't necessarily disagree with you, Asia.
Mm-hmm.
I think you might be hearing just an inch ahead, not a whole lot, because if I were going to say any one of them said that, it would be like, I'm not picking up after her anymore, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And then, so there's a suggestion, a hint, and she's gonna have to pick up her own stuff, or she's gonna have to pay somebody to pick it up, right? We'll see. But but I do think responsibility is getting a little bit ahead of where that person is.
Okay.
But something in there we know for sure is their value is what?
Cleanliness.
Cleanliness. Cleanliness, and what was the other thing I heard?
Fairness.
Fairness. Where do we hear fairness?
Picking up your own stuff.
All right. So I'm not sure that they said fairness yet. I feel like that is hearing ahead as well. So like if they said, I'm not picking up after her stuff, she doesn't pick up my stuff, so why should I pick up her stuff? Then I would say fairness. But right now they're saying, all I know is that this person does not want to pick up after them anymore, and they can't stand that this person is a slob, right?
What about accountability?
Where'd you hear accountability? What's the line that says accountability?
Picking up their things, things.
Right, so they didn't say she has to pick up her stuff, right? They're just, what I know for certain that they have said is, she's a slob, right? So when I hear somebody give an insult, when I take the insult, I flip it over, right? The opposite of that insult is my value, all right? So I take slob, the opposite of slob is cleanliness. Then I know they value cleanliness, right? Crap is all over the place, right? So I might say that's orderliness, right? I'm not picking up after anymore. So the fairness, the personal responsibility, the accountability, that is the line that person hasn't said yet, that you're pulling those values from. Because you're hearing, I'm not picking up after her anymore. She's gonna have to pick up her own stuff because I'm not gonna be following behind her and clean up. Like those other lines, they have not said yet. Does that make sense? Let me stop the share a little bit so I can see your faces. What do you think about what I just said?
So would the I'm not picking up after her anymore, I can't quite pin it down, but is a value that she values her own time? Or do you feel where I'm coming from? Like I can't quite grab it, but
maybe, but I don't know why this person has decided they're not picking up after them anymore. This person has not said definitively why they're doing that. Okay. I can infer, I can come up, with stuff, but I don't know why this person isn't picking up after her anymore. And so this is a part where I think an essential tool that we need to further develop as a community of radical listeners who are committed to building relationship is to stay present with the person and what they're saying. Okay, because when we listen ahead, we interject feelings and values that they may not have communicated. Right? So it's not so much that I mind picking up after her, it's that we have other things that we need me to be doing. Okay, when I'm picking up after her, then then my eye is off of the baby. You know, and we know, given all of her medical issues, that we need my eyes to be on the baby. When I'm picking up after her, I'm not studying for my bar exam. When I'm picking up after her, you know, I'm not getting the rest. I'm not practicing my yoga. I'm not lowering my blood pressure, right? So I don't know what all the reasons are that this person isn't picking up after her. I can infer, but that inference, it does not make space for them to tell me, right? And that is the dance, that piece of the dance around relationship building that we need to leave more space for, all right? For people to tell us why it's important for them not to pick up after her anymore.
So in that sentence, like I'm sorry. In that sentence, then would you like reflect back, like with the first two sentences, you clearly have the value that you've come up with. And then the third one, would you prompt them to say, by needing to pick up after this person, what, like, how does that make you feel? Or is that, what is it that, to what extent do you prompt them?
So here's an open, and well, oh man, Tuli made me get in next week's training.
Oh, okay. Right, sorry.
I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you. Not for David. I wouldn't do it for David. So sounds like I think I'm hearing you feeling fed up about what's been going on with housekeeping, and cleanliness is important to you, and feeling adamant about some solutions around your participation in housekeeping. And I want to find out, like, how have y'all both been navigating housekeeping to this point? All right. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Karen. Okay, yeah, it's so easy to jump ahead. It's so easy, because it's, as human beings, that's one of the tools that has kept us alive, right? Like we would get piece of a story, right? Like I see a footprint. I see broken branches. I see a tuft of fur on there. There's a saber-toothed tiger on the other side of that bush. Okay, so we've had to learn as a species to fill in the story to keep ourselves alive, right? And that's great for survival. And now we're ready to thrive. Right? So the next part of our process is the trust that we're safe right now. We're talking about housekeeping, right? We're not talking about how to get away from a predator. We're talking about housekeeping. So we're gonna hold back our survival tools, right? And develop our thriving tools. And so we're gonna say, all right, let me stay right with you where you are about what's going on, right? So if I'm having this conversation, and this would be very likely a conversation that people who live with me might have, I need to say, okay, so keeping the house clean is important to you, right? Feeling done with how I've done housekeeping, and I don't know what's that look like for you? What's happening for you when I come home? What's that look like for you? Okay, and that makes space for the person to say, look, I mean, I'm not seeing, okay, maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe your crap isn't all over the place, but I noticed I have spent the day cleaning the house. I'm excited about the house clean, right? I got the incense burning like you like it. I got the essential oils, the peppermint burning in the incense burner. And then you come home, you just drop your bag, you drop your coat, right? You kick off your shoes. There's just this trail of Tracy all the way to the kitchen. And, with no acknowledgement that the house looks good, the house smells good. All right. So you feeling unappreciated by me right now. And need me to kind of like conduct myself in a way that honors the investment that you've made in the house. Is that right? Right. So that's a very different that's a very different conversation from, I've been working all day. And next thing I know, you're jumping down my throat. Why? Because I kicked off my shoes because I've been working all day and I'm tired, right? That's a very different conversation. Because it is, you know, and that's something somebody would, bless her. I was in a relationship with a woman, bless her heart, she had OCD. And so, yeah, the house would be immaculate when I would come home. And one time, on top of it being immaculate, she's a holiday person. I'm not much of a holiday person. The house, there was a Christmas tree that was decorated. I walked right past that sucker. Didn't even notice it. Like, not just that it was a 7-foot tall Christmas tree, but it was decorated, you know, with lights. And I walked past it to the kitchen. She's like, well, what'd you think? About what? You know? So if you're a person like me, you do not want to start off with your defense. It's like, how am I supposed to notice the tree? I'm tired or whatever. No. If you're like me and you want to build a relationship, you know, you slow it down. And you're like, oh, help me understand from your perspective what just happened from the time I walked to the door to we started this conversation. What was happening for you? Okay. Let's look at the next one. Enough about me. Enough about me. I mean, yeah, she's my ex, but we happen to still be friends. So there's that. It doesn't keep me from being dumped, but it does keep me, allow me to still be friends. That's a plus. All right. He's a liar. He never tells me what's really going on with my son, and I'll take him to court if I have to. He'll never see that kid again if he doesn't change. Okay? So what's our value?
Honesty.
Honest, my son, and I'll take him to court if I have to. All right. What is this person feeling?
Left out.
Feeling left out, right? He never tells me what's really going on. All right. He'll never see that kid again if he doesn't change. Right? That's a solution, right? Where would we say we are with that? What feeling or topic are we hearing in there?
I mean, I'm hearing feeling backed up against the wall.
Feeling backed up against the wall, feeling left out, right? And what's the topic?
Threatening, feeling threatened.
Feeling threatened, okay. And what would be the topic?
Communication.
Beautiful. All right, good. All right.
Proactive communication.
All right, beautiful. Wait a minute. Where did we hear proactive communication?
I said proactive because they said he never tells me what's going on. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
What about shared parenting as a topic?
I would say proactive communication and shared parenting would be values. All right. And here's why I would say that. If I asked this group what shared parenting was, everybody in this group would have a different answer. Everybody in this group would have a different answer what proactive communication was. By myself, I probably could come up with 3 for each. Okay, so it's not specific enough. It's not tangible enough. That makes sense?
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I heard you asking for values. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, that's quite all right. But so I would say the topic is communication, right? We're not communication. I might even call it information sharing. Like if it's a parenting plan, I probably would call it information sharing. All right. But if it's regular folks talking, having this conversation, I would call it I would just call it regular communication. All right. If he doesn't turn down that music, I'm going to kill him. What's the topic?
The noise, the music.
Music, there you go, thank you. So music, right? And I'm going to kill him. What's that? Feeling valued?
At the wit's end.
Fed up.
Okay, feeling at your wit's end. All right. All right.
Well, someone
like
said fed up. Someone said a really good one. Someone said fed up.
I said fed up.
Fed up. Okay.
Right.
True enough. If you could follow directions, then we wouldn't
Oh, I'm
be
sorry.
having
I was getting ready to say contemplation.
contemplation. I'm gonna share this contemplation. You trying to set somebody up, Sinclair. If you could follow directions, then we wouldn't have these problems, would we? What's the value?
Say it again, Tracy.
What is the value? If you
No,
could follow
the sentence.
directions, if you could, it's the fourth one on the examples. If you could follow directions, then we wouldn't have these problems, would we?
Expectations,
Value, order.
Understanding.
expectation,
Control.
I was still straight
Following
from the
directions?
sentence, following directions. I was still straight from there, follow directions.
Okay,
Okay. And in that, I feel like I don't have enough information to get a feeling or a value. I mean, a feeling or a topic, but I do hear the top value of following directions. All right. I was fired because I am a woman standing up for my rights, period. All right. And then I hear a topic and I hear a value. I even hear a feeling.
Quality.
Inequality. So inequality, like I generally people don't value inequality, right? We might say they value equality, right? Potentially, I would need to hear more to feel confident about saying equality.
Well, I wasn't saying, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I did it wrong. I was flipping. I wasn't using any equality for
the
value.
You were using equality as the value.
Right.
Right.
When she said, right.
And so what I'm saying is I still need to hear a little bit more to make sure I hear that value. But what I hear is as a value is standing up for my rights. Right. So I do hear standing up for my rights is a value.
The feeling, is she feeling betrayed?
I'm not sure. What I do feel like when somebody comes in with, this is what's happening, period. For me, the feeling when I hear period is adamant.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And what would the topic be?
Getting fired.
Say that again. Okay, so getting fired is the thing that happened, right? And the topic would be what?
Rights. Your rights.
Right.
Why she was fired?
That's what I was thinking.
I stand corrected. It could be rights. What I was thinking of is employment would be the topic. Okay.
Ooh, Owen just said it.
Good job, Owen. Watch out. Owen, are you a community mediator already? I missed you. No. Okay, be careful.
Soon to be.
Hopefully, yeah.
Phasia shopping on this training. So, what's important about that? Yeah, let me ask you that. What's important about that? About listening in that particular way?
Oh, you honor people.
Okay.
And it helps you not to infer, like you said earlier,
your
your own beliefs or ideologies or what you think they're saying.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. So you're honoring people by like, I'm seriously engaged in practicing the art of listening, right? And I'm going to do that in a way where I'm going to slow down this conversation. All right. One of the things I am notorious for not being one willing to engage in social media. So, I post my cell phone number and email address everywhere, and I tell everybody, call or text me, and you can have my email address, but you should probably text me that you emailed me, okay? Because I'm very uncomfortable with the speed that communication happens on social media. Like I can't keep up with that rolling tab, right? And I'm like, what? And, you know, and then, you know, we start talking about, you know, global warming, hashtag, you know, hashtag clean environment, hashtag be responsible, hashtag, and then they go down that hashtag, but your mama stink. I'm like, what? How did I get involved in this? What happened? They took a wrong turn at Albuquerque. What? Back up, right? And so one of the things that I'm encouraging us to do, way to use these skills that are taught to inclusive mediators, is to slow it down, right? And so that is why when you're sharing with me the feelings, values, and topics that you heard, I am saying to you, what's the line that says that feeling? What's the line that you heard that topic from? What's the line where that value comes from? Now, it's harder to do that when you're actually, you know, talking the words, unless you're like that old children's show, Electric Company, where the words will flow out your mouth, you know? Remember that? That was the
Yes, I do.
Right? So that doesn't happen in the rest of our worlds, right? And so we're going to be training our ears, right? Not only to break everything that we hear down in feelings, values, and topics, right? But to slow it down. And the reason that we're using feelings, values, and topics, right, is because we can kind of take our defense mechanisms out of it, right? So when someone is engaging us, right, with their position about what it is we're doing, our impulse is to do what?
React.
Mm-hmm.
To defend ourselves, right? Right? You, nuh-uh. Right? You did this. Nuh-uh. Right? That's our impulse. Right? Or, yes, I did. And it's because you, right? Counter-strike, right? And so instead, I'm going to sit with this thing that you said that I did. Right? And I'm going to break it down into what topic is that about? What is that thing about? Right? How are you feeling about what's going on? And what's important to you about that? And the reason I like doing it that way is when I listen to feelings, values, and topics, regardless of what the person is saying, because sometimes you all probably don't have this experience because you hang out with completely stellar people who always 100% of the time tell the truth. But there have been occasions, right? Oh, it's like all my people 100% of the time tell the truth. But there have been occasions where I have been outside of the ADR world, where I've been around people who are not 100% forthcoming about what was going on, right? And so the temptation is to converse about the facts, right? And to debate the facts of it. You know, you came in late. What do you mean I came in late? I was home before 11 o'clock. That's late. No, it's not late. Like, you know, it's like before midnight. I'm a grown person. So you get caught up in the facts. Right. And you can debate. You didn't come home at 11, you came at 1 a.m. blah, blah, blah. You know, you go back and forth about facts. And the facts may or may not be accurate. But feelings, values, and topics are going to consistently be true. All right. So even when I am lying, you can still pull the truth out of the feelings, values, and topics that I said. You can still pull out what I call capital T truth, as opposed to lowercase t truth. All right, let me demonstrate it. I come waltzing in here, and I come waltzing onto the Zoom, like, oh gosh, y'all, I'm so sorry I'm late. It's been such a day. I caught the red eye from Paris, and I get to LaGuardia, and I'm looking all around, and I cannot find my chauffeur. I don't know if he has COVID-19 or what. I can't find my chauffeur. And so I have to rent a vehicle and drive myself back to Maryland. And and all I had was Lexuses and a Mercedes on the lot. So I had to get a Lexus, and I drove back, and I completely forgot to reset my Rolex. So again, my apologies. Please forgive me for being late. All right. Now, I want you to push, right? I want us to bump up our evolution, and I want you to push yourself to hear past your judgment of me, because it's so easy to judge me, right? That's the easy thing to do. I want you to push yourself past your judgment of me and hear what my feelings, values, and topics were. Okay. So what's the first thing I said to you?
Sorry.
Okay. So what's my feeling?
Apologetic.
Apologetic.
I'm feeling apologetic. Okay. So you can capture that feeling because I said it at the beginning and at the end, right? So even if I'm lying, my lies still reveal something about me, right? Because I could have just walked in late and not gave you any kind of excuse, but there's something about being late that bothered me enough that triggered me to say, let me apologize for that, right? So I'm feeling apologetic, right? Because what's important to me?
Being on time.
Being on time. Okay. So regardless of what the reason why I'm on time, whether it's because, of the red-eye flight, no chauffeur and the Lexus, or because, my hoopty broke down, the buses always run late and I didn't have enough money for the train, whatever it is, there's something about that happened that made me late, and being on time is important to me. Okay. And what's my topic?
Training. Being present for the training.
Okay, so being present for training is a value of mine, right? And the thing that's making me late is I talked about flights, I talk about chauffeurs, I've talked about transportation. Okay, so big T truths are feeling remorseful, feeling apologetic, feeling and valuing timeliness and transportation as a topic. All right. And so I don't have to get mired down in the details of it if I want to collaborate with you to figure out how I'm going to get here on time from now on. All right. You don't have to fact check me. You don't have to look at the plane schedule and quiz me on that, right? You don't need the name of this chauffeur, right? You don't need to know what kind of model Mercedes I usually drive, right? We can just focus on, okay, so how can we work out transportation so that you can get the timeliness that you're looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so what it has meant for me as a person is that a good chunk of me stop fighting about what has happened and works towards a future that we can have.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. What we're going to talk about in upcoming trainings is like, how do we ask questions, right, that keep people from getting defensive, right? And we'll do another training on how to talk in such a way that supports this collaborative energy. All right. So I'm going to give you,
Tracy, I just want to say that was
yes.
really good, because coming in when the person's late and they say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm late. You never flip it to think of the positive. I could have come from a place like, well, she doesn't value time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the way you taught that was like, well, yeah, something intrinsically in that person does know that time is important to them. It says time is important to them. You know what I'm saying? Because usually if you come in late for work or a job or anywhere, people tend to feel like you don't value time.
Right. And that's not necessarily true.
And that's not necessarily true.
Right.
Right.
And so we leave space for folks to talk about what is happening for you with time.
Right.
I think the other thing from your conversation was also realizing how easy it is to get distracted about what's going on within you. Because honestly, like, I didn't get that whole, like, when you're like, oh, she was apologetic, like, about being late. I didn't get that at all. I was fixated on, well, is she in some entitled, because she's got her Mercedes and her Rolex and like rough life. So like, you can completely miss really obvious things because you're in your own head about stuff.
Beautiful. Thank you, Atul. That's very helpful. So our judgments about these other pieces, right? It's like, I see people kind of split on it. It's like so Tua went like, oh, poor baby, rough life, right? Right? And some people were like, she was lying, her lies got lies. Right?
I was with the lies that lie. I was. I was like, she values how people see her because
right, exactly.
Right?
And so a lot of times, we can shut down our listening for either one of those reasons, right? Because of our judgment. We can shut down our listening because we're like, okay, they're lying, or we can shut down and listen because this entitled heifer, I don't even care why she late anymore, right? Find a seat in the back, be quiet. All right. So, and we're in a place right now, we can't afford to be that way in our relationships, right? We have to pay attention to our judgments, what our judgments are saying, right? And we have to push ourselves to stay engaged, right? And this tool of listening for feelings, values, and topics give us a way to kind of distract our judgments enough to stay engaged, right? And to go in for what I'm calling big T truths, right? And when I think about times in my life where I have told lies, right? I understand why people lie. I understand why people lie. My thing now at this point in my life is I'm not asking people to like tell the truth 100% of the time. Just lie to me like I'm smart. You know what I'm saying? Lie to me like.
Tracy, can you explain how you understand why people lie?
Well, like I said, it's not like I have been 100% honest in my whole life. I know that there have been times where I told lies, never to you, Sheila, but to other people at different other points in my life, right? Because I felt unsafe, right? Because I felt like I was going to be judged. All right, I felt like I was going to be unwelcome.
Tracy, can I just say, just from your example, sometimes people lie because it's not ill intent. Sometimes it's deer in the headlights, and I just got to get out of this situation, and you do that. And so it's not any malice behind it. Sometimes I'm just trying to get out of a situation, and it just comes out deer in headlights, and boom, that's it. I know that's a lot. I talk with parents about that a lot. Sometimes kids are not coming from the vantage point of they're really trying to be manipulative. It's sometimes just deer in headlights, know. So
yeah, that's that fear component I'm talking about. Like they're just like, feels like truth's gonna make my life more difficult right now.
It's like that fear that your mother gives you with that look.
Right.
Also, Tracy, going back to the example that you used, the person could have lied because they did not want to look bad. Like they could have overslept, but they didn't want to come in there and say, I overslept and look sloppy like they were irresponsible.
Yeah.
So,
all kinds of reasons why people lie, and you can judge it as legitimate or not. But so like I've taught myself not to be upset about it, right? And to focus my energy on seeking out the higher truths, the bigger truths, the truths that will support collaboration. All right. Because whether or not it was a trip from Paris or a trip from West Baltimore, does not make a difference on whether or not we can collaborate to get you here on time in the future. All right. Where you were coming from, what kind of vehicle you were driving, who was driving you, how you get on those facts are not going to help us figure out like how to get you here in the future, right? But understanding that being on time is important to you, right? And there's something going on with transportation, right? That's going to help me. That's going to support me in working collaboratively with you.
Tracy, can I just repeat what you just said that I thought was just like gold? So if somebody writes down like a book about Tracy's gold statements, I love this where you said, seek out the higher truths that support collaboration. Just that one sentence. Isn't that gold? Seek out the higher truths that support collaboration. I love that.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Asia. Because I'm like, there's so much going on in the world right now, right? We got so many things we need to work out. And a lot of why we have not worked it out is because we don't trust that we can do it. And so we don't do it because we don't think we could do it. So we keep not doing it, right? And I think I'm praying that we have gotten to a point where we're like, okay, for real, we gotta do this. This current generation does not seem tolerant about our despair. And the newest group of young folks that y'all made, they do not seem tolerant of our indifference, our despair, and our sense of helplessness. They're like, you better have, if we have to do that, there's going to be some real problems. If you leave this work to us, there's going to be some real problems. And I believe it. I'm a little afraid of them. So I'm going to do my part. I want the record to show Tracy Ford was trying. Okay. And if you too want to be on the right side of history, join me. All right. And we're going to try. And a huge part of the work is slowing down and having these really, really, really difficult conversations, right? And there is not going to be a one statement, like I appreciate Karen's shout out about a goal statement. I don't think it's going to be a single goal statement that's going to get us out of these, it's going to resolve these issues, right? It's going to be a series of really dull and mundane conversations, right? And shared spaces. And, some policies, but I think the bigger part of it is cultural change. And so if we're saying that we are going to replace, that apathy and helplessness and violence are not sufficient tools for us, right? And violence, please remember, violence is a communication style. Violence is a form of communication. So if we're saying as a society that we want to take away violence, then we are taking away a language. And if we're taking away a language, we have to replace it with something. And so part of my belief in this 3-part training is this is what we want to replace it with. And with any language, if you're learning a new language, it is going to feel awkward at first, right? It's going to feel awkward at first. And the more you use it, the more fluent you become. All right. And so give yourself a lot of space for it to feel awkward at first. Right. I am learning Spanish, and I'll go into settings that are predominantly Spanish speaking, and I try with my very clumsy Spanish to speak. And as long as they see me trying, people tend to be very patient with me, right? And if I get out 2 whole sentences with few grammatical errors, this restaurant that's on the corner of my house, they will rise up cheering. All I did was order some high blood pressure meal, and say thank you, but it is the effort that they're applauding, right? So when we are learning this language, right, when we're shifting from a competitive, violence-centric kind of language to a collaborative language, 1, be patient with yourself, grant yourself lots of applause, right? And when you hear other people trying to shift their language, grant them lots of patience and give them lots of applause. All right, because then that is how the culture changes. So not only will we be shifting out of violence, right? We will be shifting into a language of cheerleading, right? Can you imagine, remember when you were little, or you don't remember when you were learning language, right? You don't remember when you were first starting to speak, but you've been around children, right? When they're first learning to speak and they get a word and they say that first sentence and the room stops, people cheer, we do the wave, a couple of people twerk, and we're excited about it, right? And I want us to, as we're learning this new language together, I want us to bring that excitement and enthusiasm to it, right? Because we've been making a big change that's been stalled for centuries upon our evolution. All right, so we get a little, raise the roof, which mucho gusto.
Is that you say Wusso?
Yeah, a lot of energy.
Oh, okay, I'll read it.
Hit it for me too.
All right. That dog barks all night long. It's ridiculous and quite rude if you ask me. First of all, you shouldn't own a dog unless you know how to keep him quiet throughout the wee hours of the night. How are your neighbors supposed to sleep? But they are just inconsiderate of other people's feelings in general. They play music so loud you'd think we live next to a nightclub. What the hell is that all about? I don't understand how they think it's okay to turn that noise up full blast. And even if they like for their yard to be a mess, I care about my property values. This is a beautiful neighborhood, and I love living here, and I want to keep it that way. But when these fools next door can't even figure out how to mow their friggin' lawn, it just sucks looking out my window.
Okay, thank you very much, Atul.
Sure.
All right. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to identify, I don't care which one, feelings, values, and topics that you hear in there. And when you say the feeling, value, or topic, I need you to pull the line where that's said, okay? So what did we hear?
I heard anger.
Where did you get anger?
It sucks. I heard it several times.
Okay. So here's a tool for it I want you to be thinking about. The reason why I'm asking you to pull one line that says it is because if you can find a line that says it, it's more likely that you're hearing the feeling, value, and topic, right? When you need multiple lines, you're making a case for a feeling that you infer that they will have. Okay. And so instead of making inferences, I want us to be able to make a straight line from this feeling to that statement, right? If we have to do a couple of bends and turns to get there, then we're hearing ahead of what the person's saying, or we're injecting our own experience into that. Okay. So let's look at anger again.
Okay.
All right. Where else might we get? What's a single line that would get us anger?
Oh, I'm sorry. She was talking.
You can answer.
Oh, I thought you were right. I would say it's ridiculous and quite rude. They're strong words.
I'll give you that. All right. So anger.
The dog barks all night long, exclamation mark.
Okay. All right. I'll give you.
What the hell is that all about?
What the hell is that? Okay. I'll give any one of those. I'll give you anger for. All right.
I had confused for what was that all about. Feeling confused.
What's that all about? Yeah, I would get confused. Very good. What else?
Frustration.
Yeah, frustration.
All right.
Yeah, that dog barks all night long.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we have?
Feeling proud of
I got
what else?
Proud.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Feeling proud of a neighborhood.
Yeah, that's why I said pride in where they live.
Oh. Okay, very good. All right, what's the line that says proud?
I love living here.
Yeah.
Very good.
Beautiful neighborhood,
Beautiful
right?
neighborhood. I also did the value of consideration.
Okay, where did you get consideration?
Well, I flipped inconsiderate.
Very. All right. Somebody give that woman a round of applause. And I'm typing, so I can't do it. But yes, that's it.
I have values responsible pet ownership because you shouldn't own a dog unless you know how to keep them quiet.
Very good.
I got a value as, this is Arlene Harrison, I got a value as valuing restful sleep.
Restful sleep.
Okay.
Very good. What's the line that says that?
Well, I can't see because you moved it up.
I did, didn't I?
But
talk about like a consideration.
It says
all night long.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Barking all night long.
Right.
It's quiet.
How are your neighbors supposed to sleep?
How are your neighbors supposed to sleep? Very good.
I think she values politeness.
Can you hold on? What about some topics? What are some topics that we hear?
Noise level.
Okay, noise level of what?
Apparently their entire lifestyle.
The music.
Yes.
Music. All right. So music is one topic, right? Because they blast the music, so they have the
volume of the music.
Okay. All right. So I would just say I would just call it music, right? We can talk about that. And what else?
What about
what questions
evening?
Say that one more time.
like noise volume in the evening.
Okay, let's get more, we can get more specific, so let's get more specific, right? So noise has to do, noise volume, right? It has to do with music, and what else is the source of noise?
The dog.
Barking.
Dog, all right, so I would say dog, and I would say music, right? What else is this neighbor having a problem with?
Property
Yard.
maintenance.
The yard.
Unkept yard.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the topic?
Property maintenance.
Unkept yard.
Neatness.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Neighbor cleanliness of the yard.
so cleanliness is a what?
Value.
Value.
Right? Unkept yard, right, is the person's position. All right. Their position is that the yard isn't kept well. Right?
So order?
Yeah. Order is
Would
a
it be
value.
neighbor relations? Neighbor
Everybody-
relations?
Wait. Let me get, everybody take a deep breath, slow down. All right, take a deep breath, slow down. Remember what I said about topics. They are unromantic, plain, flat words. All right. So unkept yard wouldn't work because it blames, right? And it takes a person's position. But so what would, if it's not unkept yard, what is the topic?
It says yard is a mess.
Just
That's what
yard.
Just by itself.
Just yard by itself. You could call it yard, you could call it lawn, because the person says the freaking lawn, right? So either one of those we could use. So we could call it yard or lawn. All right.
And Tracy, I have a question.
All the stuff that we're adding on to it is not neutral, and it's blaming the person. Yes, AG,
I was going to say, can you break down, how was I going to put it? I had actually as a topic property maintenance. Is it that because, like you said, when you ask 10 different people what property maintenance means, you'll get 10 different answers? Is it that it's just not sort of concrete? Is it too vague?
So property is a couple of things. It's that it's a value, right? But it's also a solution.
Oh, is it a value? Is it value?
And it can be a solution.
It's a solution.
All right. Property maintenance is a solution.
Okay.
So
it also can fall into that category of he should or shouldn't maintain the property, where it's just property is neutral.
I hear you.
It's a couple of things.
Is one way to think of topics as like just pick like a single noun, and then if you feel the need to add a word after it, could it potentially trigger either party? So when you say lawn, it's hard to get all like, triggered by that. But when you say lawn maintenance, that seems to trigger one or the other.
That's a good.
Right.
All right.
Good. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, no trigger,
Sherry.
no trigger word. Okay.
Neutral.
Sherry said neighbor and neighbor relations.
Neighbor relations. So I would say that would be very broad, right? Because the other thing, in addition to like hearing ahead and trying to do fact finding, the other thing that makes our conversations complicated is that we are having huge conversations at one time. So our whole relations, and what we're trying to do is break it down into manageable bites, right? So there is something going on with our relations, right? And what I'm saying, what we're looking to do is break it down into specific concrete things, right? So we have music, dog, and lawn. And I feel like that would be it, right? And the thing I would be asking myself, let's say I'm the neighbor that they're talking about, all right? If I ask myself, if we came to a collaborative decision about how to handle the dog, the music, and the lawn, right? Would that resolve our conflict? Right? And based on this, what I've heard right here, sounds like it would.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I mean, with dog, I'm wondering if you want to get more specific and say barking, because another problem with dog could be digging holes in your yard or pooping in your yard, and this dog problem is barking.
All right, and so if I call it the barking dog, right, I'm taking sides. Okay. It's not neutral because I don't know what the capital T truth is, right? I know that there's something with the dog and I'm looking for peace of quiet, right? And if I say the barking dog, the person will say, how about this? My dog doesn't bark. I have African Basenji, so I know for a fact that it's not my dog barking.
Right.
And if it's anything, it's your kids playing that crazy music that they play, and it sounds like barking to me. Right? Right?
Yeah.
So I don't, as a person that's trying to collaborate with people, I don't want those problems, right? I don't want those problems to figure out, is the dog barking, is the dog not barking, or what have you. I want to make a space for us to come to figure out all this going on. Okay.
Stacey, can I interject?
Yes, Asia.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, because when I had one of the topics as noise level, I honestly, I did exactly what you said. I read this and I sort of interpreted these neighbors as like generally noisy neighbors. They have a noisy lifestyle. I read it like, I kind of in my mind was all about they probably arguing and you hear it through the walls and like general noise level. So I put noise level because my imagination added information. So yeah, that was interesting. My brain did that without even me.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's everything about how we entertain ourselves teaches us to do that. All right. And so I want, and I'm fighting to be right. And if I can capture the topic in a way that does not create a need to be right, like barking dog creates a need to be right. My dog is not, it's not my dog barking. Everybody knows that African Basenjis don't bark, right?
Why don't they bark?
They're used for hunting, so they don't bark, so they can creep up on animals.
I didn't know that.
Do they have vocal cords or no?
No, they can bark. They don't bark.
You gotta
one of the flip sides of that is that we actually do have this howling dog in my neighborhood, and for some reason everybody asked me to talk to the dog owners, so I had to do it. And she was nice, but her answer was, yes, he's a beagle. Beagles howl.
Right.
But it solved the problem though. She brings it inside.
Yeah. And so, like we don't know how people will respond to it, and we don't want to set up a dynamic of combativeness. Right? And if I take the adjective out of it and I talk about what the specific concrete thing is, people are less likely to get combative about it. And so we can go into the conflict with a interest in collaboration as opposed to an interest of being right.
So is it that topics don't be adjectives?
Topics wouldn't be adjectives. Topics generally wouldn't be adjectives. I'm trying to think of if there's an exception with that. Like occasionally it might break down to more than one word. Sometimes it is more than one word. So sometimes I'm talking about our time together or our communication with the children as opposed to our communication with each other, right? But generally speaking, you are avoiding adjectives, all right? So the next thing I want to do is I want to share with you, I'm gonna give you an option. I'm going to share with you some, another assignment that's written, and you have an option of doing this one. All right. And Phasia, if you can share that with folks via email who didn't get the last one.
Okay.
You can do this one, or you can go to any one of those TV programs where they break the fourth wall and they talk directly to the camera, right? And kind of get interviewed in front of you. So any of the reality shows, any of the spoofs on reality shows where they break that fourth wall, and you can take one of those events and you can practice your feelings, values, and topics. Okay. So what you'll want to do is record that so you can rewind it and listen, take notes and capture the feelings, values, and topics on it. And then the next session, I want you to share the feelings, values, and topics you heard that person give. All right. And remember, the point is we are retraining our ears so that we can break down the positions into feelings, values, and topics. So we're hearing in this very collaborative way. All right. And to further support, Paige, I'm sorry, I hope you didn't send it too soon. Can you also add that feelings and values chart that I sent? I will put that in the chat. So because we were doing it as a group, we've been doing this as a group, and now we're going to be at home by ourselves without the support of one another. So I don't want you to go home and work on this and feel unsupported. So I'm giving you a big list of feelings and values.
Oh, this is homework.
This is, I don't like the term homework.
I know, I just said it.
It feels less fun. See how faces dropped, like this. Before we were talking about practice and everybody's like, oh yeah, I need practice. And then Phaedra introduces homework.
Sorry.
It's our continued training, Tracy.
What'd you say?
Continuation of training.
Continuation of training. That's right. It's session 1A. And so I like practicing using the reality shows, or even if you look at the talk shows, and you can use the animated ones. You can use the ones where the paternity tests are issued and stuff like that, and talk about and use those to practice your inclusive listening. And the reason I'm saying those is if you're anything like me, those are places where my judgments get triggered. Oh, I started watching those. As a matter of fact, I started watching those when I was like, I was an executive director. I just started being an executive director. And I would come home feeling so dejected. I'm like, I am so bad at this job. I suck, right? And so I just wanted a little shot of superiority once a day. And so I watched, Intervention, or even better, Hoarders. And sweetest of all, My 600-Pound Life, right? And no matter what else was going on in my life, that wasn't going on in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't dealing with that. We won't talk about my sugar addiction. That's none of your business. But I wasn't dealing with those issues, right? And it would give me a little shot of superiority. And so I noticed that about myself. And so now I use those, I'm like, okay, what is my hearing? What does my listening look like when my judgment is being triggered? And not only is my judgment being triggered, but my investment in the conflict it's entertaining to me. All right. How do I listen when I'm not 100% vested in ending this? Anybody ever have one of those fights where And I lived in Baltimore City for a little over 20 years now. I'm originally from Columbus, Georgia. Everybody know Columbus?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, all right, good. I think if I say it at least twice a month, somebody knows Columbus. But it's a small town. You can vouch for me. It's a small city. It's a bona fide city, but it's a small city. And a lot of the lessons that I learned in Columbus, Georgia, growing up, did not translate evenly when I moved to Baltimore.
Billion.
I'm sure.
And so I found myself in a good chunk of conflict, but just exercising the communication strategies and living in community strategies that I learned, because I was unintentionally offending people, to the point where people were calling me names on the internet that my mother would not have recognized. And in that process, someone said to me, a lot of this was happening within a group that I belonged to that was volunteer run. I was one of the facilitators, and a lot of the conflict was kind of coming my way because you know, I was doing what I thought, how I thought people were supposed to interact. Like, for example, I don't know, no one had ever said this to me explicitly growing up, but I learned somewhere along the way that when I'm talking to an elder, right, that I don't look up until, and there's a cue that they can give that lets me know to look up, but I can't tell you exactly what it is, but I know when it happens, right? And so there were people in the group that were my elders, and I was looking down, right? And for me, I was being respectful. What were they seeing? What was the story that
you were
ignoring them?
Being
I was ignoring them.
You're
I was ignoring
inattentive, inattentive, yeah, unattentive.
Right. What
Unattached,
else?
being unattached from the conversation.
Right. What else?
Lacking confidence.
I was like confidence. Right. What else?
Rude.
That was being rude.
Telling the truth.
I was being rude. I was being disrespectful. Right. And for a lot of people, they thought I was being sneaky. Right. And none of that was my intention. Right. And as far as I was concerned, I was being extraordinarily polite,
But Tracy,
very
how far
considerate.
were you looking down? Like, how can you demonstrate? How you?
Let me think. I don't know that I could do it over Zoom, you know, but it would just, you know, like my eyes would be dry. My eyes would not be lined up with their eyes.
Okay.
You know, so I'm not, you know, like I'm not.
Right, that's what I thought you were like. That's why
I'm not looking shackled, but I'm looking below their eye line. Right?
Okay.
And so, you know, they got read a very different way than how I was intending. Right. And at the same time, so that's happening. And at the same time, I was encouraged and trained that if I had something to say, I say it. Right. And the way that I say stuff, people read it as I was saying it at the exclusion of anybody else who thought differently. So, you know, I went to an all women's college, and I was accustomed to women, you know, we talk on top of each other and we could disagree, and we, you know, we stuck it in, and we would have the conversation until we figured out something that we could work with, you know. And it might seem aggressive, but my understanding was my job was to communicate my position and make space for your position, right? And how that was heard in this group was I communicated my position, and it seemed like I made no space for anybody else's position, right? And I was expecting them to meet me with the same kind of energy on things that they felt just as adamantly about, right? And so, none of this, now I can articulate what was going on very clearly now, but at the time, I'm like, I don't understand these people. I don't understand these people. And they're saying, this bougie chick, this bougie sneaky chick. I'm like, what? What? I think I'm thinking of starting some emails from that uncle. That would be challenging enough. Right. And so there's all these places in our life where we, you know, how we see ourselves in the conflict and what our role is and how we're talking and how we're communicating seems so clear to us, and we're confused about the other position. And so what I'm hoping that we can learn, like what I learned, this group and I, the facilitators and I, we did go to mediation. All right, so somebody referred us to mediation. We did go to mediation. I was very stressed at mediation, right? And, you know, I'd been involved in the group for a couple of years at that point, and people were saying, I said this, and this. I don't even remember, I didn't remember saying those things, but they definitely sound like the kind of things that I would say. You know, like I couldn't even get defenses. I was like, probably, yeah, that sounds like me. Right? And in the mediation process, it kept me from getting defensive. Like I could hear, I'm like, oh, I hear that differently when you say what I said. Right. Oh, I hear how I hear how that can come off differently, right? And so what we want to train ourselves to do is, we're not trying to eliminate the need for mediators. I think, in fact, that there will be an increased need for mediators the more we do this, because we'll see more opportunity where we want to share the responsibility of that listening with a third party neutral. Because ever since I've done the training, I still use mediation. I still actively use mediation in my life, because there are some points where I'm like, I just need somebody to help me with all the listening that needs to happen here. All right. And so I want you to practice these skills on the television and on the paper. If you want to challenge yourself, and I'm not telling you to, if you want to challenge yourself to listen to people, to practice the skill in communication with people that you're actively in relationship with, rather than trying to pull out their feelings, values, and topics, instead, I want you to say your feelings, values, and topics. Okay? Because it takes a while to say other people's feelings, values, and topics without sounding automatic and disingenuous. All right? But you can say your feelings, values, and topics. And here is my favorite part about this. It is highly contagious. It is highly contagious, meaning that as I do that, as I communicate that way, people in my life communicate that way. Right? So I have grandkids walking around imitating, like I didn't realize these people were imitating me, because you know how kids do, they pick up stuff. And my granddaughter is walking around with a fake play phone attached to her ear, right? And she's stomping around in shoes 8 times her size. And she's talking and she's walking back and forth, this and another. And all the other adults in the house are laughing. And I'm struck by the feelings, values, and topics she's pointing out. And I don't notice that she's imitating my physical nature too. Like, I didn't realize I pace a lot when I'm on the phone and stuff like that. But, and in fact that she was ruining my shoes while she was doing this demonstration of me. But at 4, she was catching inclusive listening skills. All right. So, and as you'll find that as people, as you're talking to people like that, using inclusive listening and saying your feelings, values, and topics, they will talk back to you saying their feelings, values, and topics. And in fact, one of my most profound mediations as a mediator, it was 3 generations at the table. And it had come to the table because there had been a physical conflict and charges filed against the sisters. And they had brought their parents to support them in the mediation, like to you know, because they wanted their parents involved. And they had gotten to a physical altercation because of conflict that their children were having. So one of their sons and the other's daughter had also gotten to a physical altercation. And then as a result of that, the sisters had gotten to a physical altercation. And, you know, so the table was full. There was a lot of people at the table and it was crowded. So the youngest member of the family, who had been in the initial fight, was like sitting right next to me. And I, like a good mediator, had all my mediation tools out, my feelings and value sheet, my notes and everything. And the whole conversation that had been up here, you know, people talking at, you know, decimal 10, very loudly and fastly, and lots of accusations or what have you. And then finally they looked at the youngest member and they're like, well, this was all about you anyway. What's going on with you? What do you feel is going on? And she says, just real quiet and somber, she's like, how do I feel? She's like, I feel hurt and unloved and unconsidered and forgotten, right? And so these people who had been up here for like the last 30 minutes suddenly broke down, because like whatever else they had been fighting for, they were not trying to create that experience for her. And so they went from rah to just sobbing. Like all of them just broke down and sobbed. Only reason I wasn't sobbing because I'm like, she did a perfect reflection on herself. What am I supposed to do? What's my point now? And then I noticed that we were so close together. She was reading off of my notes. So it's validation that my notes were correct. It was true. It was how she was feeling, right? But and then her sharing that, like I could have shared that, right, as a mediator, right? They probably would have been surprised and what have you. But her sharing that stopped them in their tracks, right? And so, like, if they had been able to have that conversation in their home, how powerful would that be? Right? Because she was very easy, just looking at my notes, she was able to capture how on target and how powerful those feeling words were. And she was able to share them and stop every adult in her life just by sharing that, right? And it was just this moment of serious, transparent, open vulnerability, right? And it's because of that she taught me, because one of the things, when you move from Columbus, Georgia to Baltimore City, people tell you over and over again, you got to toughen up. You got to be hard, right? And I don't know if you know this, hard would look ridiculous on me. No one would no one would be convinced to buy me as hard, right? It is not. And what I've been hearing this, not even just in Baltimore, my whole life in Columbus, people were like, you're Black, you're female, you need to toughen up, you need to get hard, right? It's not a legitimate tool for me. And I'm like, how am I still alive if I'm soft? Because I am soft, right? But I noticed there's a resiliency in softness, right? Like things, if you hit something soft, right, it slowly but surely goes back to its regular form, unbruised. If you hit something hard, you will either break, or it will break and it will shatter, or it will crack, or it can be damaged irreparably, right? And there's a huge strength in my softness, right? And so I'm not telling people who are hard not to be hard, but I'm saying that if you're like me and you're soft, there is a strength in that as well, right? And I have opportunities, I have strategies for being vulnerable, right? That don't leave me vulnerable to attack. You know, I can talk about who I am, right? And I'm comfortable in it. And, you know, you can make jokes about it. You can say stuff about it. You can even intend to attack me and I am unfazed by it, right? Because my softness makes me resilient, you know, and in some ways, you know, resilient. Like punch a marshmallow if you don't believe me, you know. You know, you get a little sticky, but you know, it comes back to its form.